Matt and his wife lived in the country. Matt was very stingy and hated spending money. One day a fair came to the nearby town. "Let's go to the fair, Matt," his wife said. "We haven't been anywhere for a long time." Matt thought about this for a while. He knew he would have to spend money at the fair. At last he said, "All right, but I'm not going to spend much money. We'll look at things, but we won't buy anything." They went to the fair and looked at all the things to buy. There were many things Matt's wife wanted to buy, but he would not let her spend any money. Then, in a nearby field, they saw a small, old-looking airplane. "Fun flight," the notice said. "$20 for 10 minutes." Matt had never been in an airplane, and he wanted to go on a fun flight. However, he didn't want to have to pay for his wife as well. "I've only got $20, he told the pilot. "Can my wife come with me for free?" The pilot wasn't selling many tickets, so he said, "I'll make a bargain with you. If both of you can hold from screaming or shouting the whole flight, you won't have to pay for her." Matt agreed and got into the small airplane with his wife. The pilot took off and made his airplane do all kinds of things, up and down and all around, tricks, fast turns, everything he could to scare them, but they never uttered a word. Eventually, the pilot said, "Okay, we'll land now. None of you made a sound, so Yor can have her ride for free." "Thank you," Matt said. Wasn't easy, especially when she fell out. A politician, 3 doctors, and 3 engineers decided to climb Mount Everest. They arrive there and start climbing the long way up the tallest climb on Earth. It's a grueling climb, and they have to stop many times to rest and pull each other up. Halfway into the climbing, the rope starts to break. The doctors say they should all hang on and wait for help. Nobody believes they will arrive on time. The engineers, with their quick physics skills, tell everyone, "One of us has to jump or else we all die." Nobody wanted to jump. Everyone held on to the rope with their hands tightly. Then the politician let out a sigh. "You people are valuable resources for the country. A doctor can save so many lives. An engineer can build so many innovative things. But what am I? A useless politician. What do I do for society? Nothing. I just give speeches and that's it." He gives out a very heartfelt sigh. The others were so touched, they all started clapping for the politician. A preacher went to his church office on Monday morning and discovered a dead mule, or better known as a jackass, in the churchyard. He called the police. Since there did not appear to be any foul play, the police referred the preacher to the health department. They said since there was no health threat that he should call the sanitation department. The sanitation manager said he could not pick up the mule without authorization from the mayor. Now, the preacher knew the mayor, and was not too eager to call him. The mayor had a bad temper and was generally hard to deal with, but the preacher called him anyway. The mayor did not disappoint. He immediately began to rant and rave at the pastor and finally said, "Why did you call me anyway? Isn't it your job to bury the dead?" The preacher asked the Lord to direct his response. He said, "Yes, Mayor, it is my job to bury the dead, but I always like to notify the next of kin first." A man goes into a pet shop and tells the owner he wants to buy a pet that can do everything. The shop owner suggests a faithful dog. The man replies, "Come on, a dog?" The owner says, "How about a cat?" The man replies, "No way. A cat certainly can't do everything. I want a pet that can do everything." The shop owner thinks for a minute, then says, "I've got it, a centipede." The man says, "A centipede? I can't imagine a centipede doing anything, but okay, I'll try a centipede." He gets the centipede home and says to the centipede, "Clean the kitchen." 30 minutes later, he walks into the kitchen and it's immaculate. All the dishes and silverware have been washed, dried, and put away. The countertops have been cleaned and the appliances are sparkling. Even the floor was waxed. He's absolutely amazed. He says to the centipede, "Go clean the living room." 20 minutes later, he walks into the living room. The carpet has been vacuumed, the furniture cleaned and dusted, and the pillows on the sofa plumped. It even watered the plants. The man thinks to himself, "This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. This really is a pet that can do everything." Next he says to the centipede, "Run down to the corner and get me a newspaper." The centipede walks out the door. 10 minutes later, no centipede. 20 minutes later, no centipede. 30 minutes later, no centipede. By this point, the man is wondering what's going on. The centipede should have been back in a couple of minutes. 45 minutes later, still no centipede. He can't imagine what could have happened. Did the centipede run away? Did it get run over by a car? Where is that centipede? So he goes to the front door, opens it, and there's the centipede sitting right outside. The man says, "Hey, I sent you down to the corner store 45 minutes ago to get me a newspaper. What's the matter?" I'm going. I'm just putting on my shoes." Although the Wilsons and the Browns had been neighbors for years, they had never been friendly. The Wilsons didn't have any kids, so they resented the noise and the toys in the front yard next door. The Browns resented the complaints about their kids and the fact that the Wilsons would have parties which lasted late into the evenings and resulted in cars blocking their driveway. To make matters worse, the Wilsons had a big dog that would crap on the Browns' lawn, and the Browns had a cat who would make tracks on the hood of the Wilsons' car. The Browns also had a big white rabbit in a cage in their backyard, which was a pet of their youngest daughter, Sally. One Sunday, the Wilsons came home from church and found their dog laying in their driveway chewing on something white. To their horror, it was the Browns' pet rabbit, dead and all covered with dirt and dog slobber. Knowing that this would be the final straw to start a full-blown neighborhood war, the Wilsons acted quickly. Since the Browns went to a later church service, they had a little time to solve the problem. First, they took the rabbit into the shower and washed it with shampoo. Then they dried it with a hairdryer to get it all nice and fluffy again. Next, Bob Wilson went into the Browns' backyard and put the rabbit back into the cage. Bob was very pleased as the rabbit looked like it was sleeping. By the time the Browns got home from church, Bob Wilson was raking leaves in his backyard. After a few minutes, he heard Sally Brown shriek and yell for her folks. They all came out to the rabbit cage, and there was quite a clamor. Acting like a concerned neighbor, Bob came over to the fence and said, "Is something wrong?" "The rabbit's dead," whimpered Sally Brown. "What do you suppose happened to it?" asked Bob in a concerned tone of voice. "We're not sure," said Sally's father, "but the thing that baffles us more is how it got back into the cage." "What do you mean?" says Bob. "Well, it died yesterday and we buried it in the garden," answers Sally's father. A young man moved to the beach area and is trying to meet women, but isn't having much luck. One day the young guy is walking down the beach and he passes an old guy who is completely surrounded by young, beautiful women in bikinis vying for his attention. The young guy scratches his head and keeps walking, but can't understand how that old guy is meeting so many women. The next day, he takes a stroll on the beach again and passes the same guy, who once again has many attractive young women with him. The next time he walks down the beach, he sees the old guy again, and he still has hot young women all around him. Finally, he decides that he has to know the old guy's secret, so he pulls the guy aside and asks, "How do you do it? How do you always attract so many hot young women?" The old guy responds, "Tomorrow when you head out to the beach, slip a potato inside your bathing suit." So the next day, the young guy slides a potato into his bathing suit and heads out for his daily beach walk. But today, all the women are actually moving farther and farther away from him. He finds the old guy again and says, "Hey, what's going on? I followed your advice. I put a potato in my bathing suit, and the women are practically running away from me." The old guy sighs and says, "Try again tomorrow, but this time, put the potato in the front." A dentist was getting ready to clean an elderly lady's teeth. He noticed that she was a little nervous, so he began to tell her a story as he was putting on his surgical gloves. "Do you know how they make these rubber gloves?" She said, "No." "Well," he spoofed, "down in Mexico they have this big building set up with a large tank of latex, and the workers are all picked according to hand size. Each individual walks up to the tank, dips their hands in, and then walk around for a bit, while the latex sets up and dries right onto their hands. Then they peel off the gloves and throw them into the big finished goods crate and start the process all over again." And she didn't laugh a bit. 5 minutes later, during the procedure, he had to stop cleaning her teeth because she burst out laughing. The old woman blushed and exclaimed, "I just suddenly thought about how they must make condoms." A lady went to the bar on a cruise ship and ordered a Scotch with 2 drops of water. The bartender gave her the drink, and she said, "I'm on this cruise to celebrate my 80th birthday, and it's today." The bartender said, "Well, since it's your birthday, this one's on me." As the lady finished her drink, a woman to her right said, "I'd like to buy you a drink, too." The lady said, "Thank you, how sweet of you. Okay then, bartender. I want another Scotch with 2 drops of water." "Coming up," said the bartender. As she finished that drink, a man to her left said, "I'd like to buy you a drink, too." The lady said, "Thank you very much, my dear. Bartender, I'll have another Scotch with 2 drops of water." "Coming right up," the bartender said. As he gave her the drink, this time he said, "Ma'am, I'm dying of curiosity. Why the Scotch with only 2 drops of water?" The old woman giggled and replied, "Sonny, when you're my age, you've learned how to hold your liquor. Water, however, is a whole other issue."